Hey, what's up? Today on this journey, I'd like to talk. About what it's like being a man. For me specifically, but I mean, I'm guessing and hoping that some other people can relate to this. Because like life today as a man is harder than it's ever been, and yeah, we're not faced with all the things that our great grandfathers were faced with yet, I guess we could say, world wars and etc. Although we have had our share of wars during my lifetime. So yeah, that's but being a man today, like for my own circumstance, is, and I'm for this, and I've created it, and I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, because I'm not, because this is, if I had to do it over again, this is exactly how I would do it. But like I believe as a man, our duties are pretty complex and simple at the same time. I think the values that are important for a man in today's day and age are, number one is service. Number two, being stoic or stoicism. And number three, forget my third one. Well, it'll come back to me. Let's open up on the service. What I mean by service is it is our duty as men to protect, and I'm highly protective of my flock, if you will. Right? I live with my wife. We've been together for nearing 30 years. Well, we have been together for 30 years. We've been married for I think 28 years now. My daughter's about to turn 29. I live at home with my wife, my two daughters, who are both adults, my son, who is also adult, and my eldest daughter has two daughters, twins, if you will, and we're all in that house, in one house. Also with two dogs, two cats, and like 20 chickens and ducks, all things considered. Those are not the things that are hard in my life, the animals and whatnot, but being fiercely protective of my immediate family is my role, and it is my duty, and I have to be at service for them. That means that I've got to be on my toes. I've got to be able to protect them. I've got to be able to provide for them. And I always have. I take great pride in the idea that I've never had my electric shut off. I mean, have I been behind on bills and have we struggled? Of course. But we were able to shield my children from that they didn't know, even when we were struggling at our hardest, they didn't know that we were struggling, to some degree. My wife, who I love dearly, has been a stay-at-home mom, and to this day remains being a stay-at-home grandma, and I wouldn't want it any other way. She raised my kids. We never had this conversation openly, okay? But once my daughter was born, and then shortly thereafter my second daughter came along, it just became assumed. Largely on my part was that I assumed that this is my role, that I've got to provide. And since that time period, I have been the sole income in my family. Much the way that families were raised in the, up until the early 80s, I guess, right? When life was affordable and you could have a sole income provide for a family and be able to buy a house and buy a car and take small vacations and without without killing yourselves. You know, this day and age, not so much. And I sympathize or empathize with the people that have that need, you know, for the two incomes, and who have to depend on the school systems and, you know, and nannies and daycare programs to raise their children for them. And now, most notably, the internet and gaming and gaming communities, obviously, you know what I mean? Because with all those things combined, the level of parenting that is taking place is proving to be quite a detriment to the children that are being produced as a result, or at least the young adults that are being produced as a result of, you know, of these circumstances. You know, somehow we've been sold, probably by the big bankers and whatnot, that, you know, and also by the all the rights activists about why, you know, equality and why women are as good as men, and you know, I don't have an opinion on that. You know, like, all I'm saying is that if you could raise a family and you could be the sole income, and you could allow your significant other to stay in the house and be a full-time parent, my guess is that you're going to have a better result of who those children are. You know, I've always kind of liked the idea that you know, they say it takes a village to raise a child. Like that really sounds great in theory, but like, have you looked at America lately? Have you looked at the village? My thoughts yesterday were, if it takes a village to raise a family, or to raise a child or children, look around at the village. What do you see? Fuck that. I'll raise them myself. That's my attitude today, because it's a mess. It's a mess out there. So back to my original statements. You know, my wife has been a stay-at-home mom, and she is now a stay-at-home grandmom with my daughter, who I also support as a stay-at-home mother, and they are co-parenting my twin granddaughters. And I don't ask them for anything. I don't ask them. I'm not throwing fits that all this pressure is on me, but all this pressure is on me. You know, and I'm happy for it, and I'll gladly accept it, and I'll do whatever it is I have to do to get the result that I'm trying to get. You know, to have my immediate family, my wife and my daughter, raise these girls to the best of their ability, so that, you know, so that they grow up, and I pray this every day, so that they grow up healthy, happy, athletic, intelligent, and nice people. They're the things that I'm asking for. They're the things I ask God for, you know, and the only other things I ask Him for the most part, are to give me the strength and the guidance, and at least to show me the doors, or show me the table that I need to have a seat at, in order to provide and do the things, and be able to do the things that I'm trying to do. And lately, my call to service is, in my mind, is expanding, and this certainly could be based on the current times that we're living in, you know, and the tragedies that have taken place in the last few weeks. But my call to service is that, you know, I believe that I can share my opinions and maybe touch somebody else's life, maybe help inspire somebody to do something different, and to see things from a different perspective. Because I do believe that we've got to get back to a time of more religion in our lives, no matter what that religion is, and being, you know, more of like a nuclear family, you know, where you have fathers providing, mothers nurturing, you know, siblings, of course, nurturing, you know, and then develop communities that are doing those same things, because we're a long way off the way that had existed previously. So service is for me is in the forefront. The other value that I'm trying, and I'm not good at this part, is being stoic. You know, I never knew what stoicism was until, I don't want to say very recently, but you know, in the last couple of years, I've encountered a few online sources that are about, you know, stoicism or living a stoic life. And that is a man and a man's strength. And that's not to say that a woman can't be stoic as well, because of course you can. That is, to me, it's a way that a man is supposed to act in the presence of